You're watching the Comms Syndicate live stream.
It's 11:59 on Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right. Well, welcome to the live stream. We've got Jared from 2 Alpha Solutions and Drew from the Terminal Element. And it looks like we got a few folks in the comments section. We've got Ground Fog and Yard Sale already. So welcome, guys. And for those who are active on amateur radio, you can send us your comments or questions via JSATE call. Drew, what did you want to do? 20 or 40?
I'm up on 40 meter right now. I think that'll work best here. It's getting kind of dark here, so it's really going to light up here soon. So 7078 megahertz, kilohertz,
Put that up there.
cycles.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going to go with megacycles, 7.078 megacycles, and address your message to @TCS, and I'll get it. It'll bleep behind me, and we'll read it to you.
Excellent. Well, we got a kind of a jam-packed show, so
And the filthier, the better. Go on.
Absolutely. And well, it is rated for anyone 18 and over on the show. So if you're younger than that,
the last half of it, whenever we talk about
earmuffs, kids, earmuffs.
Well, yeah. So we've got quite a bit packed into this show. We are going to talk about comms to start, and then I've probably got more than we need for discussion and questions. So if that starts dragging on too long, we will jump tracks over to some things that Jared has planned for us regarding some of the, recent gun laws or legislation in Virginia?
Yeah, proposed legislation.
I see. Okay. Well, let's get through some of these comms topics, and then we'll get to that. But I guess basically to start, I wanted to start with this, that we live in a world where communication feels permanent. So if you've got a phone in your pocket, or you see signal bars, if your apps load, then you assume that you're connected. But what happens when that assumption's wrong? What happens when connectivity is deliberately taken away, not just by storms or by accidents, but by human intent? And more importantly, what still works when those modern systems fail? And I think this is where searching for alternative communications quietly steps into the spotlight. We've kind of covered this topic before in some previous shows, but basically, I wanted to focus on communications blackouts and what alternatives are available that would keep you in the information loop. And what we're going to do is anchor this in some real world events. So when governments pull the plug on the internet, what still works? If the internet went dark tomorrow, would you still have a voice? And so our first case study would be the recent uprisings in Iran. And recently, amid ongoing civil unrest, the citizens of Iran experienced an internet blackout at the hands of the current regime. And according to some of the reports coming out of Iran, they describe some of the scenes that sound probably less like normal protests and more like a war zone, but it's kind of difficult to get information and verify it because they do have a bit of a clampdown on the information coming out. But from what I've read so far, in cities and towns across all 31 provinces, there have been crowds pouring into the streets, men, women, teenagers, people from wealthy neighborhoods, and working class districts as well, confronting security forces. And apparently rights groups have estimated that hundreds of protesters may have been killed. I've read some figures up to 400, 500 dead are sometimes cited, and more than 10,000 people arrested in across a couple of weeks. And the real numbers could be even higher. Like I said, it's very difficult to verify that. But already, you can kind of notice something important, that those numbers, those descriptions, they're just estimates, because when information is suppressed, truth becomes statistical guesswork. And so we can probably phrase, or I guess, position some of this in terms of, what would that look like if it happened here? But This isn't the first time that they've done this in Iran. It's an ongoing thing. The Middle East has a bit of a track record of, censoring people and turning the internet off. But for, I guess, the first question for either Drew or Jared, when did you guys personally realize that modern connectivity is more fragile than it looks?
When I had kids,
Go on.
I really, well, I just realized I now have obligations that are much more important than I had prior to that, and so communication was very important to coordinating with my family in inclement times. And so, in my job, I'm always thinking about emergencies and operations and I guess I see behind the veil in some cases, and so it strikes me as something that's particularly vulnerable, our communication systems. And true enough, in this area, some farmer digs up the fiber optic line, and we're all dark for like a day until they can set up a clean room around that and start and
Right.
splice together the fiber optic lines. It's a pretty big deal, an expensive deal at that. So that happens enough here that I knew I needed to invest in backup communications. And so my wife was cool enough to get an amateur radio license. And
Oh, did
so,
she? Good on her.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Like while she was feeding babies in the middle of the night, she's studying for that ridiculous exam, and she went through it. And so, right there, when I hear, she got attacked. And so when I hear some guy saying, "Oh, I've got a job and I've got this and that, and I can't take a test," okay, yeah, sure. Well, my wife did it, so you
Wow. Good on
got
her.
beat by a girl, buddy.
Right.
But so yeah, we've experimented with different systems. Now we got some Starlinks too on top of that, but Starlink is just as fragile as anything else. It goes out constantly, and now
I'm
we're
glad you
stepping into
brought
this
that up
age
because
of
we are going to cover that a little bit because
awesome.
Iran was able to affect those systems for their citizens. How about you, Jared?
It actually has to do with radio. So right after I graduated high school, I lived up in the Pittsburgh area. We had a big plane crash up there, just a couple miles from my house. And it was U.S. Air Flight 427. It was on approach to Pittsburgh International. It was September, I can't remember the exact date, September of 94. But the communication system, the emergency communication system for the county was just completely overwhelmed, radio wise and 911 wise. And it failed for the first 5 hours. Just nothing could get in, nothing could get out. There was so much miscommunication, so many fragmented bits of information coming out from the ground, from the scene there, as to what actually really happened and what they needed, so on and so forth. It was kind of a twofold thing. It was the phone system and the county emergency radio system.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I thought the ongoing protests in Iran were relevant because we're experiencing some protests here, and I'm not saying that the government here will turn the internet off on us. I mean, I don't want to say the chances are zero, but it's probably
things were looking really weird in 2020, weren't they?
They were looking
kind of like they were, and they were leaning on private companies to do a lot of that for themselves. So
they certainly.
I wouldn't say never. Things could get just as weird again.
As we were saying, the chances aren't zero, but with that, how dangerous do you think uncertainty itself, specifically the lack of information and communication, is during civil unrest? Is that more dangerous than everyone, who is jumping on like X and YouTube and Facebook, even probably putting out information that's not even accurate? Like, is that worse, or do you think the uncertainty and lack of information is worse?
So your question is misinformation worse than lack of information?
Correct.
Oh goodness. I mean, it's you might as well have no information if all you got is misinformation. But
I think misinformation would be worse because you're making decisions based on misinformation that could be detrimental more detrimental to not having any information. You're almost having like a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, the manipulative effect of whipping people up into doing committing acts of violence is certainly pretty damn dangerous. If you have a mass of people who are unwilling to critically analyze the information that's coming in, we know that like up to 50% of traffic on some of these platforms is bot traffic or foreign troll farms who are trying to manipulate us into annihilating each other. So it's there. It's definitely a clear and present danger. I agree that misinformation's deadly. I mean, I'm getting information coming across my inbox that ICE is disappearing people, is kidnapping people. I mean, this is obviously not true, but a person who's unwilling to critically analyze that claim, or just doesn't have the tools in their arsenal necessary to really critically analyze that, or that, yeah, that would sound really terrible, but that would sound like something that we should all rise up against, because that's tyranny, but that's not occurring. They're not kidnapping anyone. A lawful arrest is not the same as kidnap.
Right.
Even having that misinformation is making people react in a way that they normally wouldn't.
You have a fan in the comment section, Jared.
I see that.
I can't see it. Read it to me.
There's a few of them. You know what? I'll show them really quickly. Jared,
We're not devolving into Jerry Springer here. Take off your shirt.
Out.
Oh,
I have no idea who this is. 2 Alpha, you like dogs? I like dogs. So that's how it started.
Aw.
And then let's see.
That's cute.
2 Alpha, you train dogs? Nah, bro. Man, dogs is a side product of positive control of a situation in areas. Hooah. And the last one, I mean, I do not train canine units, but have utilized them to the fullest extent. Oh, well, thank you for that. How about another question? So, do you think smartphones have made people less resilient communicators? Because I do see a lot of people that I've had people argue with me telling me they don't need a radio. And that's fine. Maybe you don't. But it's typically people who are kind of putting their eggs in one basket with communications. And it makes me wonder, you know, obviously, one, has that technology made people become less resilient in terms of having multiple ways of communicating if that goes down? And I mean, do you think people kind of fundamentally misunderstand how the internet actually works? Because there's a lot of little points within the internet that, you know, if something goes down, then just last week we had multiple systems affected. Like if, you know, AWS goes down, it takes other things down with it.
I think it's made people very complacent.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think it's made people very dumb too, because they're relying on Google and YouTube and everything else for their everyday lives, on how to even get through everyday life.
That person who said that they don't need a radio to you, did they follow it up with, when shit hits the fan, I'm coming to your house? Like this sounds like just a negligent person. Well, I doubt it has anything to do with the cell phone.
To qualify that, I'm actually lumping several people into one
sure.
narrative. I've had that conversation with people multiple times, and it is people that just will probably never take an interest in it, which is fine. You know, I don't expect them to. But, you know, I over the years since I've been interested in radio, like I've had those conversations. So I don't know. I always kind of wonder about that. Just wonder about people, you know, if at any point during some of these failures in the internet, you know, when things go down, like if they ever change their minds, or, you know, maybe if, you know, like a storm rolls along in their area, like, you know, is there anything that has convinced them otherwise? But it seems some people are kind of stubborn, I think.
I think people want instant, I don't want to say instant gratification, but they want instant results and instant answers. And 25 years ago, before cell phones really came on strong, you had to wait for a phone call back. You had to listen to your answering machine, and it might be all day long until you got an answer. And I think it's bred a lot of impatience in people.
Do you think that there's any, I'll call them invisible points. They're not invisible, but just things that people don't think about in modern networks that maybe they don't think about that are fragile, that could fail tomorrow, that would maybe prevent them from communicating? Obviously, the internet's probably one.
You mean as far as communication systems with our phones go?
Yeah.
I think a layperson doesn't have any idea what it takes to make all that technology work. I don't think they know what the technology is, and the vast amounts of infrastructure that is in place to make it work.
Right. Well, even just the internet alone, it's run by an army of people. There's people that have to update the websites and analyze information and data and, fix, things when they break. And, I don't think people really realize that. That's why I'm kind of making the argument that the system is actually pretty fragile. But I think people just kind of assume that their phone's going to work tomorrow.
I think it's a little bit more robust than a lot of people think, though, too, because there's a lot of
there's
redundancies in place for it. As whenever you had just a pair of twisted copper lines between you and the next person in a microwave relay station,
right?
It could be days or weeks before that connection could be repaired.
Well, good. Sorry.
Hold on. I don't think we've solidly answered the question. So the question is, if I can paraphrase, have smartphones degraded our lives? So
I think
that's the question you're asking.
Well, what I'm asking is, do you think smartphones have made people less resilient communicators?
I'm guessing that they're probably, the existence of a smartphone is independent of that. If we're dealing with a negligent person, the presence or absence of a smartphone is not going to change the fact that they're just a negligent human being. So I think smartphones have improved my life in many ways. I've got the entire world's knowledge at my fingertips. I can get an answer to something. I can get a recipe. I've learned medical procedures from the internet and then done them. So it's something that is tremendously beneficial to me. The computing power on my cell phone, I can get a lot of business done on it without having to go somewhere and sit down at a computer and have the tremendous power consumption. I can be very remote and be still doing business and getting work done. So I think it benefits my life. But as far as if somebody is not a robust communicator, I don't think that a cell phone changes that. I think that's just their inability to respond to uncomfortable situations and come up with plans to prevent that from happening again. Like how many people were freaking out buying bottled water in 2020 and they still don't have any damn water in their house. They still don't have the extra toilet paper. True. They go through the storm and they run to the store to buy all the eggs and bread and milk. And then the next storm rolls around and they go through the exact same panic. They've placed no forethought into that. That trope has been around since long before smartphones have existed, and we're just talking about negligent people.
Yeah,
look at October of 2001. People were mass buying sheets of plastic and duct tape so they can cover their entire houses over because of the anthrax threat.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
And that was really that. I mean, that was before smartphones, and that was mainstream media telling us to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that. But shifting back to kind of how this started with Iran. So inside Iran, the government's basically trying to frame those recent protests as foreign manipulation. So,
and it may be, I don't know. It could be the CIA is behind all that. I don't know.
Well, you've got officials blaming,
Arab Spring,
terrorists, saboteurs, and the Zionist regime, and they're of course blaming the United States. as you mentioned, as well as other outside enemies. So basically, if you're an enemy of Iran, then they're probably blaming you, which sounds familiar because we've heard people make similar claims about protests that have happened here. Most recently, the ICE protests in Minneapolis. There's a lot of theories of, who's behind them and who's pulling the strings and why. But the head of the Iranian Parliament's National Security and Foreign Policy Committee says that Israel's behind the protests. I believe the head of their judiciary was saying things like no mercy for the protesters. And then, of course, you've got the Revolutionary Guard chiming in that the protesters are enemies of God. And, it's a label that I believe can carry the death penalty, if I'm not mistaken. But
well, I just recently read about a doctor who treated gunshot wounds in some of the, what word are we going to use? Protesters, rioters?
Yeah, let's go with protesters. It's
revolutionaries, protesters, sure. The IRCG dragged him out of his home, beat him within an inch of his life, and arrested him for doing his ethical duty as a physician. So, this is a pretty dangerous situation.
Well, and you've got the Ayatollah saying things like, mercenaries are working for foreign powers and, pretty much anything to divert attention from the fact that maybe people just don't like the government. But outside Iran, you hear a different set of voices like we're saying. You've got people saying this time it's different. The street will prevail. People will win. And so you've got a couple of different stories that are colliding. You've got the state saying we're under attack by foreign-backed rioters. And then the people saying, we're done with authoritarian rule. We want our country back. And so, we're starting to see a pretty familiar pattern emerge. Those who control the communication controls which narratives survive. And so the next question is, which matters more in the modern era, controlling communication or is controlling territory more powerful?
What was the first part of that question?
So I asked what matters more in the modern era, controlling communication or controlling territory. Is that more powerful?
Controlling information is kind of the key component of fifth generation warfare, is it not?
Sure. I don't see why not.
So I took a Appleseed. I went through an Appleseed, and one of the big things that the topics that they went into was a long time ago. I'd like to go back with my kids now, but one of the big things that they went into was the race across the ocean to Great Britain, to France, and to get that narrative out very quickly about what was going on back in the colony. So even back then, that was really important to get that information out there.
Well, I was kind of wondering about just how communication was flowing out of Iran, because they've clamped down pretty hard on the amateur radio community. It's very difficult to find numbers, but supposedly somewhere around, I think there's 30 licensed amateur radio operators in that country. I think
that's the best information I can find as well.
And there's no real sources for it either. There's anecdotal stuff on the internet that you guys will find if you Google it, or if you go down some rabbit holes in some forums.
How much information would really be coming from those radio operators over there?
I don't know, because you'd probably have to be pretty scared of the regime to do anything that would be frowned upon. I would imagine,
with a number like 30 licensed amateur radio operators, it would be nothing for the IRCG to once they get that first whiff that any information is getting out by HF, just murder every single one of them. I think they would have no ethical problems with doing that.
Do you think if they did talk about what was going on, are they kind of automatically becoming like unofficial truth brokers during these communications blackouts? Like how
becoming unofficially dead.
Well, I was reading a story a long time ago. Forgive me, I don't have it up. I was on some internet rabbit hole and came across this, but during the Tiananmen Square massacre, supposedly there was a I don't know if I don't recall offhand. I had written about it at one point. It was either an amateur radio operator or a guy who had like a pirate radio station going, and he was basically telling the outside world what was going on, and they were trying to shut that down because they wanted to, control the narrative. But he kind of became a truth broker in that situation. A lot of people took what he said at face value, I think, but he was able to broadcast. I thought he was broadcasting on shortwave, but I don't recall all the details. It's been a while since I read that. But
but you also had video coming out of China during Tiananmen Square of the tank man. I don't think China would have wanted to have that released on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was definitely coming out in other ways though too.
Well, in this protest over in Iran, they've been pretty aggressive, limiting people's connection to the outside world. That internet monitoring group, NetBlocks, they're like some research project, but they track connectivity that people watch. They monitor like traffic drops and stuff like that, and they had noticed that in Iran, the traffic had fallen to about like 1% of normal levels. So what that means is normal people who were accustomed to jumping on the internet on their phones or however they do it, there's no messaging apps, no social media news, stuff like that. And in some places, no phone calls. And they had what was reported as a near digital blackout. And
my understanding is they severed the link to the worldwide internet, and they have something called the, I think, National Information Network. Mm-hmm. That it's like an intranet within that nation, and so they have connectivity and information only within Iran, except for these clandestine Starlink nodes.
Yeah, it was aggressive, and also another point, is that journalists in Iran, they already face some pretty heavy restrictions. When you combine censorship with the communications blackout, you're not just suppressing speech. But I don't know. I mean, do you think radio can compete with social media for influence in crises? Because Taylor just did an interesting video, talking about how what was it, like Aries is dead. At least here, anyway.
He stepped on a hornet's nest with that video, didn't he?
He certainly did. He certainly did. But, well, he was going to, because anytime you approach a subject like that and talk about, a section of the amateur radio community that's, kind of like viewed as falling off, I could see why people would probably come at you. But he's got a good point. In terms of, how much of this stuff is still relevant. Can ham radio actually compete with social media?
I don't think it can.
Well, what are they trying to do? They're trying to plead their case to the world.
So, I mean, being decentralized, that's threatening to a government. Sorry, I stepped on you. Go ahead, Drew.
No, you're fine. But what is the actual goal here? I think they're trying to plead their case to the world, just like those colonists in the Revolutionary War were trying to plead their case to the world, and they needed to get there in person. They weren't just writing letters, right? Actually having a firsthand account, seeing videos of all these dead ass bodies in the street after the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has slaughtered people like that. That is what President Trump is seeing on his social media feed. That's probably why we've got carrier groups headed over that way right now. But with radio, that's a lot tougher. If I've just got, some JSA call message, that doesn't really hit home as much as some photos and some videos. So I think it would help. Any amount of information in and out would help, but to really like tug on people's heartstrings, like we got to do something to really plead that case. I think they're going to need something like video, something like photos. By the way, I've got a comment on JSA call here. This is from KD9 SUV. That's a familiar call sign. And he says, hello from Illinois.
Hello, sir. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if it's snowing back there still, but hope you're doing well. Well, you brought up something earlier, Starlink, and so I'm sure people watching are probably asking, okay, what about satellite internet? So, despite reports that tens of thousands of Starlink units are active inside Iran, somewhere around 40 to 50,000 users, from what I could find, those connections also started to fail. And some internet researchers were suggesting that Iran was using military grade jamming signals targeting satellite uplinks and downlinks. I don't know how accurate that statement is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's what I was reading. I didn't see any sources to back that up, but and I don't want to, do circular reporting, but I mean, it sounds reasonable. But the data suggests that early on, roughly 30% of Starlink traffic was disrupted. As protests progressed, disruptions climbed to somewhere around 80%. And so I think that that would suggest some pretty powerful jamming equipment, likely domestic or supplied by maybe some of their allies, was used to interfere with satellite signals across regions. I don't know.
So I found I believe it was a France 24 article talking about how they accomplished that. And so they began jamming the GPS signals. So Starlink needs to track GPS satellites to figure out its location so that it can communicate with the Starlink satellites.
Mhm.
Well, I believe Starlink pushed out an update that allowed those Starlink terminals to then just use the Starlink satellites for their location, but that degraded the people's ability to use these on the move. They needed to be stationary, and that increases the risk a bit, because if you're stationary, that's that much easier for someone to find you. Now, I believe Starlink also uses some degree of frequency hopping, so it might just be kind of difficult to DF anyway, but I went and looked at my Starlink bill, and there is no way to pay that except for with a credit card. I think Elon made it free for anybody in Iran.
Oh, did he?
But I don't know how they were paying for before. So if somebody starts combing through credit card records, they're gonna find payments to Starlink, and they're gonna go kill those people. So that looks extremely risky.
How easy do you think it is to disrupt satellite communications?
Well, we know it can be done with GPS a lot.
Yeah.
The Idaho National Laboratory was like testing stuff out here recently. I actually wrote email to them asking if they could just tell me more information, because I was super curious. They wouldn't respond. they were testing that jamming equipment. They didn't want to talk about it though.
I bet.
But they put out a NOTAM, I think, for pilots. But
really?
It sounds like it's really easy there's established methods for jamming the GPS. Jamming Starlink directly, I think, is going to be a little bit more difficult, because they're going to have to track these satellites across the sky, and there are numerous of them, and then be sending disruptive jamming signals directly pointed at that satellite.
I can see China or Russia providing them the tools to do that.
Well, we know China is developing weapons to actually blast these things out of the sky. So
yeah,
it sounds like they've figured out that they'd rather blow these things up than try to jam every single one of them.
Our Goodford Yard Sales got a comment. He said the current level of Aries does not come close to the capability amateur radio could give to Aries. I agree with that, because, well, I mean, there's a little less. The last number that I read was somewhere between 700,000 and 800,000 active amateur radio operators in the United States. That's it, less than 1 million. So, I mean, compared, and I say less than 1 million because we've got 330 million people in this country. So, that's not a lot by comparison to the population, but it's still a lot of people that could contribute. So I certainly agree with that there's some untapped resources there. But, I don't know a lot of people that are a lot of new hams that I've met over the years that were interested in joining those organizations. Do you?
Do we know people who want to join Aries?
Yeah. Like, have you ever come across newer hams that were like, I want to join Aries?
Yeah, I think they're fed this idea that Aries is like really, really active, and they're like the gold standard when it comes to learning how to use your radio in an emergency, and I don't think that's entirely accurate from what I've seen. But man, we could probably do a whole show on just that topic.
I think
How
during
many
the
people
Cold
join areas and quit within the first year or after the first year?
I could see during the Cold War, like from the 50s to the 90s, I could see people wanting to be active because we had a real threat of nuclear war. But an amateur radio would certainly have the potential. I'm not saying it would, but have the potential to fill a communications gap there. But I don't know. I most people that I come across that are newer hams, they're more in the kind of the prepper circles, so they're not really focused on being part of like an Aries or anything, or Reese's or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that brings up another question. Speaking of jamming, could amateur operators realistically operate under heavy jamming? Do you think?
Whenever Cuba sends out their jamming signals, I really enjoy it because that's when I get to test out
Are you
my
talking about
digital
JS8?
modes.
Yeah.
Yeah, JS8 just plows right through that interference.
Are there any countermeasures, do you think, that would work to jamming? So,
Well, yeah, certain digital modes that are really robust and can cut through interference.
So JS8 certainly one. Yeah.
VARA as well. Now, VARA and your WinLink require a call sign that's valid, which definitely would not work in a non-permissive environment like in Iran, because you would not want your call sign attached to something like that when you're communicating for your life.
Right.
So that's when you use somebody that's a silent keys call sign.
Right, but with VARA and WinLink, you're still not going to be able to access those systems. At least with VARA, you're not going to be able to use the high speeds. You'll just be relegated to the really low speeds. Oh, and that still might be good, but you're not going to be transmitting photos like that. You're going to have to be using tools like FLDigi and FLARQ and FLAMP and maybe even EasyDRM. I think you can send photos with that. But
I don't know if they're using any of that stuff in Iran, like VARA and like I
30 of them.
That's what I'm saying is I there's some countermeasures that they could probably employ, but I mean, there's probably just not but that's licensed hams though. So there's a distinction there. That's how many people the regime has said, yeah, these people can talk on a radio. There's probably so many people that are, just doing it is my guess. There have to be. There's probably, hundreds or maybe thousands of people out there with radios that are operating and probably monitoring. But I guess we can kind of, get to the heart of the HF portion. So, why does HF still matter? And some of the reasons that I came up with were, it doesn't rely on centralized infrastructure. In this country, it doesn't require permission once you're licensed. In Iran, well, I'm not sure what's going on there, but it doesn't care about borders. And ionospheric propagation doesn't ask for credentials, a wire and a tree and a battery and a radio. And, basically communications exists where none was supposed to, as opposed to, the modern internet and cellular systems. Those are designed for efficiency and scale, not for, zero failure operations under hostile conditions like in Iran. And so, I don't know. What do you think the simplest HF setup that you can come up with that's the most effective? So, like, if you were inside Iran right now, like, and you wanted to get information on the down low, what would you do?
Get information or send information out?
Well, I think it's probably too risky to send anything. Wouldn't you agree?
I would think so, yeah.
But that doesn't stop you from collecting it, because that's one of the biggest assets of radio is, monitoring and seeing what's going on.
So all you would need is a shortwave radio in that case, right? Just to listen.
Sure.
To listen. If you're jamming the shortwave bands locally, say in Tehran, you're kind of at the mercy of that jamming and your limitations on however many microvolts you can pull out of the air to receive that signal.
Are they jamming HF? I haven't seen
I don't know.
confirmation of that.
I tried to find something on that because I was very curious.
Suppose we could get on some the SDRs
Mhm.
online and see if there's one close to that and give a listen to see what we can hear. I doubt there's any SDRs in Iran right now, but
Well, and that's why I kind of like the whole idea of POTA and SOTA setups is because, if you did have an emergency, whatever it is, being able to operate, portably is, I think, a huge asset. But speaking of that, there was an incident in Belarus, and I'll share this. And again, this is kind of one of those stories that it's been difficult to get a lot of information because the regime there is controlling the narrative. But I'll kind of talk about it a little bit. And I tried to go through all of the stories that I could find on this and kind of cut through some of the circular reporting because I don't want to make it sound like I'm reporting something that's new. This is stuff that's been out there for at least a week or two now. And so take it with a grain of salt, but allegedly this is happening. So it's kind of a pretty serious attack on amateur radio, I think, in the modern, era. And it's not in theory or some abstract, regulations are getting tighter kind of way. But, in this sense, people are being arrested, paraded on television, coerced into confessions, and having their gear seized. And it's because there were some guys in Belarus that were accused of espionage and treason, and some of them may face the death penalty from what I've read for their participation in ham radio. And so there's some things that have been kind of going, I guess, brewing in Belarus for a while. But the authorities there basically launched a crackdown on licensed operators. And their state media at some point announced that several hams had been detained. They claimed that they were intercepting state secrets, and they accused them of spying on government aircraft. They alleged that a network of more than 50 operators were involved in what they called harmful wireless activities, and more than 500 pieces of radio equipment was seized. 7 people were arrested from what I've read. I don't know if it's more. And 3 people have been pretty much singled out for potential capital punishment. And I could not find anything that really supports any independent technical evidence to these claims that these guys were spies. To anyone that understands radio, and some of the, if you read the details coming out of this story, these accusations seem a little absurd. It just sounds kind of, well, it sounds implausible and politically convenient that these guys are dangerous because all of Jared, Drew, you guys are ham radio guys. There's a bunch of them probably in the chat right now, and people watching. You guys know this stuff, but it matters to talk about it because your typical amateur radio station, your HF rig, VHF, UHF transceiver, your antenna, power supply, maybe even SDR. Okay, that equipment's designed to transmit and receive signals in the clear. It's not classified surveillance gear. It's not military grade signal intelligence equipment, and it can't secretly track aircraft movements because civilian aircraft positions are already publicly available through things like the ADSB exchange. And military aircraft, if they don't want to be seen, they're not going to turn on their transponders. And even if you wanted to monitor certain frequencies, listening's not espionage. Shortwave listeners, they've been doing it for a century. And so to me, the idea that a handful of hams with Yasus and ICOMs are running a secret intelligence network is, well, it's laughable, but it's not funny because people's lives are, apparently on the line. But they've paraded these guys on state television. Supposedly there have been some forced confessions, some, as I mentioned, equipment confiscated, home search, stuff like that. And so, if you're a ham radio operator in Belarus watching all of this happen, you're probably wondering if you're next, right?
I think they're just trying to make an example. I think they caught maybe one or two guys, or it might even be the 7 guys doing something like this, and they're just making a national example out of them and saying that this is, if you're doing this with radios, and this is what's going to happen to you. Or they could have fabricated the whole entire thing just to stem anything like that's going to happen or is happening, just to get it to stop.
Or their stupid military was transmitting in the clear. They got caught. They're embarrassed. And so they're doing this whole thing now to save face. That
Right.
Just because some guys like probably overheard some stuff that they thought was really cool. And we're probably like, hey, give a listen to this. That's what I imagine is probably going on here. I do that shit all the time. I listen in on the HFGCS. The military transmits coded messages, and it's just kind of cool to tune into. So I'm not a spy. So it's laughable that these guys were like this big espionage ring in the year 2026 or 2025, whenever this occurred. And, like somehow that kind of implies that they were cracking some sort of encryption. And I guarantee they weren't using any encryption at all. They were probably using those Lebanese ICOMs, actually.
Oh, the counterfeit ones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are apparently dangerous to use. But I don't know, if you were in this situation, would you operate if it meant personal risk?
No. Or I'd be really, really savvy about it, and I wouldn't talk about it if I was listening. Do you think that
there's a point where being a ham and still operating would become an act of resistance, or do you think it's just suicide?
I go across town and do it from somebody else's house, set up my portable antenna, and come back home.
I mean, I guess it brings up another question. I mean, in Western countries, do ham radio operators, do we underestimate how political radio can actually become? Because it's not really supposed to be a controversial thing, but clearly, in Iran and Belarus, it certainly is.
If you want to know how political amateur radio is, tune into 7.2 megahertz.
Well, I don't mean political in that sense. I mean,
you're going to get both sides
definitely
of
a battleground.
Angry at you for it. Yeah, yeah. I've heard I think you guys told me about that not too long ago. I'm like, I wonder what this is about. So I listened to it. I'm like,
pretty wild.
Yeah. I was like, I got things to do. I could go see this on X. I don't need to listen to it. But I don't know. I mean,
20 meters was the same way the other day too. I don't remember. It was like 14303 or something. Like, I don't remember the frequency, but it was getting pretty rowdy there too.
3840? Was it 3840? I tuned in.
Yeah,
I tuned into that frequency. They're talking about 2 Alpha Solutions training dogs or something. I didn't understand what was going on.
Were they?
Yeah. Well, this next set of questions is actually for the audience. Things for you guys to think about. And then we're going to jump into Jared's discussion
I'm going to
about...
step away for just a minute, take him outside, and that way, and go get it.
Speaking of dogs, okay. All right. You're going to go ahead. Do it too.
That way I can get myself prepared for my irateness that's going to happen here.
We are looking forward to the rant. But for the audience, just some things for you guys to think about.
Yeah, both of you guys.
Both of you guys who are watching. If the internet went dark tonight, are you personally ready? What's the minimum kit, every serious operator should own? And is preparedness more mindset or equipment? Again, all rhetorical, just things to think about, but it's stuff that people in a roundabout way over the years have brought up to me, just asking general questions. Not that I'm the world's authority on ham radio. I am not. But it's just, conversations I've had. I don't know, Drew, are there things that people approach you with about amateur radio that kind of fall into that category of just things to think about?
Things that people approach me with. People ask me questions about how can I set up a system or this, that. Not a lot of them want to take the dive into passing that test, even though it's
Right.
not. I'm not in love with the test, but it's not really that huge of a burden. But a lot of people
The
just
tech
aren't going to
isn't.
do that,
Yeah.
and so we'll talk about, well, Starlink's pretty sweet turnkey solution to getting a group of people online,
is.
and it's going to work most of the time, and it's an option we have now. It's not an option I had when I was first starting my system, but mesh,
So this is an interesting comment and totally
yeah,
valid. Why not use Mesh Core, Meshtastic, or similar?
Reticulum's a great one.
That happened during what was it, the Arab Spring? A few years back when they were having protests across the Middle East and in Egypt and several other countries. What had happened is people were protesting. The government kind of did a similar thing that Iran's doing now. They turned the internet off or throttled the internet in some cases.
Yeah, I think
And-
Egypt shut it down.
yeah,
It
and
was shut
severely
down and
curtailed people's ability to communicate. And so, in the, I guess, the vacuum there, the information vacuum, people started scrambling and coming up with creative ways to communicate. And so they did start looking at things like Meshtastic. Tor was one of them. And so some of the
Fire
things
Chat.
yeah,
Fire
some
Chat
of the
was the
things
big one
that-
in Hong Kong. So now there's
Yeah.
Bit Chat, and that's
Mhm.
a pretty decent one. Those, we're all talking about some pretty low short range stuff here.
Yeah.
And with Meshtastic, Mesh Core, there's a certain level of technical expertise that's involved in getting set up on that. That still a lot of people just aren't going to put that time into.
right.
Whereas the Fire Chat's not around anymore, but like Bit Chat,
Now Meshtastic
that's a whole lot easier to set up.
Meshtastic
for
has
short
gotten
range.
much easier to set up. I mean, you can do it with a web browser now and flash your device and you're ready to go. As far as the encryption that you had mentioned on Meshtastic and those systems, I've heard a lot of conflicting stuff. I've heard that you can crack the encryption through Bluetooth or something to that. I haven't really taken a deep dive into that. It's just what I've heard some other
When I was
hams say.
when I was messing around with Meshtastic, it was decrypting it at the board. So if I had a repeater set up and I
Mhm.
stuck a screen on it, it was decrypting those messages. Now I hope that they fixed that since then, but I don't know anything about Mesh Core or Reticulum if that's also an issue.
I don't know
but
anything about those either. Yeah.
It's
Now,
been a few years
well,
since I messed around with it, and I couldn't get the range that I needed out of it, so I just kind of passed it along. But yes, certainly they're great tools, and I think some of the rioters and protesters in Minneapolis are beginning to turn towards those tools.
I'm sure you could probably jump on this. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank now, having a brain fart.
We'll sit here and stare at you while you fart in your brain.
What's that site where you can actually download Meshtastic? There's
Meshtastic.com.
yeah, but there's another one.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll have to
GitHub.
find it. GitHub, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
But basically, you could either go there or on the Meshtastic site, and they probably post the release notes for each version. So you could probably find out if they fix that encryption issue.
Yeah,
or
they've
not.
got
I don't know if
They
have.
used to have a Discord chat too, and I had a tough time getting answers through that. I think their Discord is where they do a lot of those communications as well.
I think there's a lot of miscommunications in there too.
I doubt
Probably.
AES 256's encryption can be cracked easily or at all. Apparently, that is
Likely, yeah.
I don't think that it can, because my understanding is that it is the gold standard right now, and so and it's open source, so anyone can look at it. But during the Russian incursion into Ukraine, they actually started out with a bunch of Baofengs and stuff, and some Western countries came along and helped them out with some really nice encrypted radios and a few years back, and it's all 256-bit encrypted, and they were there's a whole like documentary about it, but basically that hasn't been cracked by the Russians. So supposedly
you can still radio direction find it and call in artillery on that spot.
Well, what they had done to try and circumvent that is they had all of their repeaters as mobile stations. So as soon as they would set something up, they'd move it. And so they kept things moving in the field. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't be, RDF'd, but it
Makes
I
it more
guess
challenging.
Yeah, it does. Unless you've got the Kraken, which the Russians probably do. So
I'm sure they have
Well, but
many
if we're talking about
versions that are much greater than it.
if we're talking about Mesh-tastic, though, on 900 megahertz, there's so many other Internet of Things devices that are transmitting on those same frequencies. So, and I don't know about in Iran, but around here, you're going to be finding people's microwave ovens that are Alexa powered, and you're going to find all sorts of stuff, Wi-Fi routers that you're not going to necessarily want to blow up. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'd have to look at the spectrum and figure out where in the Internet of Things what you're really looking for. But one more question.
Every device has its own signature and its RF too.
Yeah.
So you can, if you sit there and study a signal long enough, you can differentiate between this signal here and this one over here, and you'll see a pattern.
Well, Drew's seen them on JS8 when Cuba or somebody's jamming 40 meters. So
I assume it's Cuba.
Well, we assume, yeah. But doesn't it show up kind of in the signature of some horizontal lines or something to that effect? Or is that
vertical lines typically?
Vertical.
And when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's Cuba." So, and I don't know where they get their information, but it's plausible. Somebody's jamming.
That video you sent us earlier today, Drew, was that, or yesterday or whatever, was that actually Cuba jamming, or was that over the horizon radar?
I think it was over the horizon radar. That's also based on people that I talk to. When I look on Signal ID Wiki, I can't really place. I don't see those exact same waveforms on Signal ID Wiki. So, a buzzing sound that occurs every 40 seconds or so, people tell me that's likely OTH radar. But
numbers station.
Yeah, well, maybe.
It could be. Those still exist.
Channel marker.
Yeah. It could be some different things. But one more question on the radio stuff, and then we'll jump over into Jared stuff. But the riders are using ham band frequencies. Are you talking about here in the United States with some of the protests? And where did you hear that?
I did see one video of some lady saying, "Hey, we need to use ham radio," and really? I'm sure the FCC did not care at all.
Rabbit Ham says
they only care if you say naughty words.
Yeah, they won't be punished, right? That's interesting that they would choose to. It says multiple sources on X. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. I've been kind of MIA the last couple of days because I've been busy, but I haven't had a chance to follow up. But
I'm sure they're using ham bands and GMRS and FRS and business
probably
frequencies and all of that.
Probably LMR.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure the cops cannot possibly figure out how to listen in on that. So
the cops don't care. They're so busy doing other things.
If you get a Uniden digital scanner, like those things are pretty impressive. I mean, you probably could probably have a couple of guys just assigned to a certain swath of, the band and, kind of just monitor.
Be a great job for a couple of Aries volunteers with nothing better to do.
It would be. It'd be a fantastic job for one of those guys if they're listening to volunteer themselves. Well, that covers the radio portion of this conversation. Jared, what have you got for us? We're very curious.
Let me see what I can do here. Hold on.
Now, is this a rant that you've prepared, or are you just going off the cuff here?
I want to talk about
rant.
The trifecta that the Democrats have got here in Virginia.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with.
And what are the Republicans doing to stop this, if anything?
Jack shit. Sorry.
Nothing.
Oh. All right.
So I'm going to share my screen here.
Do it to it.
So let me know when it's shared up on your side.
I'll add that to the stage, and it is shared. Proceed, sir.
Who's this goblin?
Disarm the entire state of Virginia because I'm a pandering communist bitch. I will disarm.
Well, at least she admits it.
Goodness.
Truth in advertising.
That started off spicier than I thought it was going to.
I love this dynamic that the Orange Hitler is kidnapping people off the streets, and so to defend ourselves against Orange Hitler, we need to run towards the nearest volcano and throw all of our most effective weaponry into the caldera.
Right.
Throw it all into the hot lava, and then we'll be saved.
So what is happening in your state?
So in the last election that we had here, Democrats have taken control of the House, the Senate, and the governorship.
So they've got you over a barrel, is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. So come the 1st of January, they have introduced a whole series of just complete nonsense bills. And not just gun control bills, it's taxes and a whole slew of other things.
But you're not surprised.
No, not at all. We knew it was going to happen.
Are you surprised? What are you surprised about?
I don't know that I'm surprised at all. I think I knew it was going to happen if this happened, and it did happen, and it is happening. And
right. What are some of the things that they're proposing in terms of gun legislation?
So the first one, I'm going to share my screen here again. Let me see. Bear with me. Share screen. 749.
All you're sharing is your face.
I'm sharing it. Hold on. There it is.
There we go.
So this is from the Virginia LIS website, and this is from the legislative something system, legislative information system. And basically it's the legislature's way of showing all the bills and all the laws throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. So this one's coming from the House of Delegates, HB 217. It's the assault firearms ban is basically what it is, and the magazine ban. This one is, let me see if I can make the screen bigger. Basically, any center-fired semi-automatic rifle or pistol will be banned in Virginia. This one here, I believe, gives you a grandfather clause. Yes, right here. Was manufactured before July 1st, 2026. Oh,
so the governor's not going to show up to your doorstep, though.
Well, that's if this one passes and is signed into law. The next one is this one, Senate Bill 749, and okay, this one, I guess they amended it, so this one is grandfathered in as well. One of them, I don't remember which one, is the magazine ban of 10 rounds. So basically, any magazine that you have that can hold greater than 10 rounds is going to be banned, and there's no grandfather clause for it. So basically, they're going to make 4.5 to 5 million people here in the state of Virginia have a class 1 misdemeanor overnight if these bills are passed.
What's your sheriff have to say about it?
Our sheriff here is very pro 2A, but that's not where the threat comes from. The threat comes from, this is a state level, not even a federal level. This is a state level. So you're not having to worry about the local sheriff's offices and the local PDs messing with you too much. It's the state police and the investigators from DCJS here in Virginia. Let's see, what's this one? Oh, here's the feeding.
What do you think the chances? I mean, you said that they've got a trifecta in the government. So, what are the chances that this is going to pass? I mean, is there an opportunity that it won't?
I see it passing, and I see her signing it into law. But I also seeing it having lawsuits within the first couple hours of it being signed by Spanberger. Hopefully having an injunction put in place to keep everything status quo until it can go through the court system.
Now, that did not work out in Washington State. So how
No.
confident are you in that?
I'm not confident. I'm saying it's a possibility. I'm hoping if it does pass and it is signed, that's what'll happen. And I'm pretty sure that the lawsuits will happen. I don't know if the injunctions will happen or not, though.
How outnumbered are the Republicans to the Democrats in your state?
I don't remember. It's. Let me see if I can.
The reason I'm asking is, kind of following up on my earlier question, what are they doing, if anything, to stall this or stop it?
There's not much they can do right now.
One of the things that, and I don't mean to get political. The gentleman,
What do you mean? We're getting political right now.
Well, I just mean, with what I'm about to say. The gentleman that was shot by ICE recently, Alex Preddy, I think is his name. One of the things that started happening, which really was strange, is Republicans, just within a few hours of that happening, started parroting anti-gun rhetoric. So, for example, I was kind of flipping around the news channels and stopped on Fox News, and they had repeated multiple times that this guy was carrying high-capacity magazines for his SIG P320.
He's a terrorist, and that he literally had dozens of cop killer rounds,
and he had 2 magazines and all of that stuff. So that whole situation aside, whether or not you should or shouldn't have been there and all that stuff, I was flabbergasted that they started repeating that, and they didn't just say it once; they kept saying it every few minutes. And I was sitting there, I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, these are standard capacity magazines.
Right.
This isn't.
They create these buzzwords and they just repeat them over and over and over.
And they did. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Like I would expect that from CNN and MSNBC. I don't really like any cable news, to be honest with you, but I was trying to tolerate Fox for about 5 minutes, and they kept doing that. I'm like, you guys suck. like this is absolutely ridiculous. You're trying to make it sound like, this guy's walking around with something that's out of the ordinary, and he wasn't. Right. And now, there's the whole argument, was he legally, do you have a CCW and all that stuff? I think he may have. But it was just
they're trying to criminalize him over something that's legal to do.
But the Republican Party, which typically is, they make it look like they're for 2A rights. Okay, that's always been their bread and butter. Just like the left has had, their thing, pro-abortion. Okay. It would be like, kind of the left coming out and being like, oh, we're suddenly against this thing now. But that's kind of how they were styling it. And I was very surprised that
both sides are for or against something, and as long as it's for their narrative and for what they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for both sides. I'm not saying that's a Democrat thing or whatever. So, because now there's a lot of Democrats that are coming out of the woodwork that are all of a sudden 2A, pro 2A.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I've been saying for a long time is it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. It's whatever their agenda and whatever their narrative is at the time.
It's frustrating.
It is. And that's why I don't consider myself a true Republican. I'm more of a traditional, not a wacko traditional constitutionalist, but sovereign citizen type. But freaking get somebody in the government that's going to support the Constitution and run the government by the Constitution.
I think
whatever they pull out of their ass that day.
I agree, and I think one thing that no matter what side of the aisle that you're on, a lot of people say this, and I think this is where everyone has a lot of common ground, is that the people that we elect, it doesn't feel like that they're representing us. It feels like they're just aggrandizing themselves, going into Congress or the Senate, whatever, poor, and then coming out multimillionaires, at the end of it when they retire. And, that's a very valid concern, I think.
Virginia legislators are considered part-time.
Are they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's considered a part-time job, and their salary for a year is only like $17,000, $20,000. It's not much. It's not, you can't live on it because it's considered a part-time job. Now there is legislation that has been put in now to pretty much double that. So a legislator will get $40,000 maybe. Right. And I don't know if that's for every legislator. Maybe if you're hold different committees or different positions within the legislation, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if you get paid differently for that or not. I don't know. I'm not from here originally, so
right.
And I'm not that in tune or that informed on all the inner workings of how that stuff works.
So what does the road ahead look like for the citizens of your country, or your state rather?
Looks like sitting in a cuck chair.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so it sounds like, one, there's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to ban magazines that hold more than 10 rounds.
Right.
That's probably, if they've got a majority, in government, then there's probably a pretty solid chance that would pass, unless there's a slew of lawsuits that get filed, sounds like.
But it also depends on what district in the state that they file some of these lawsuits. If you
isn't a lot of your population concentrated in like Richmond?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Isn't a lot of your population concentrated in like Richmond, and everything else is kind of rural, like Nevada is?
So the majority of the Democrats' population is Northern Virginia, Norfolk, and in the cities, Richmond, Charlottesville, probably Roanoke to a degree. I don't know for sure.
Because Nevada is kind of that way, where you've got a ton of like Democrats in like Vegas, for instance, and then here where I'm at, it's darn near evenly split.
It's all red. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything else is rural, but there's like 5 people that live out there, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, it's Northern Virginia. It's Arlington and Fairfax and Loudoun County, Prince William County. Those northern counties. And then the counties over in Norfolk that really just run everything. And then also the Republicans.
Well, it matters because they have a big voting block in one spot.
Yeah, it's very concentrated there. And the Republicans did not turn out this past election either. Also knowing that the governorship was on the line.
Why do you think that is?
Complacency and laziness. And also, I don't think the former lieutenant governor, Winsome Sears, she was the one running for the Republican side of the governorship this year for this term. I don't believe that she ran a very strong campaign, because I saw very little of her on social media stuff and in the news. And not that I watch a lot of that stuff, but
I saw the parts where she was ripping Spanberger apart.
Say that again.
I saw the parts where she was kind of ripping, Spanberger apart, because
but if it's not getting out there
good during the debate,
right? And then you get the attorney general here, or the Commonwealth attorney, that is openly threatening that I hope his kids get shot, and I hope they die in his arms.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was rough.
Jay Jones. I mean, how do you elect something like that?
I don't know. So for you, the reality is what? That if they banned magazines tomorrow over 10 rounds, that yours are grandfathered in?
I think it depends on which one
gets passed.
Yeah.
Tell you what, you send them all to me. I'm going to post my address here Everybody in Virginia, send me your guns and your mags. I'll keep them safe. I'll keep them exercised and
the
fed.
great state of Idaho.
Yeah.
Oh, you need a roommate, Drew?
What else you got on this subject, Jared?
There's other. Let me see. Let me try to. Am I still sharing the screen?
I can add that back to the stage. Go right ahead.
By the way, there's way too much dog hair all over this house already. I don't think Yoda. I don't think we can handle any more from Yoda.
He actually doesn't shed that much.
Oh wow.
Here's another one. And it's kind of a common sense law.
Depends on whose common sense we're using.
Right. Can you see this one? It says HB 110.
No.
Oh, you have HB 217 on the screen is what I see.
Let me see how I can change that.
You want me to? Okay. Yeah.
Stop screen. Present. Share screen. There. There, it should come up now.
HB 217.
Yeah. So, oops, wrong one. I'm sorry. I said 110.
Yep.
Does it say 110 now?
It says 217.
Damn it. Anyway, I'll just read it to you.
Okay, fire away.
Let me find it again. Provides that no person shall leave, place, or store a handgun in an unattended motor vehicle as defined in the bill when such handgun is visible to any person who is outside such attended motor vehicle. I mean, it's kind of common sense that you're not going to leave your gun in plain view whenever you leave your leave your
So
gun in
this
the car.
law will make people be smart then, right?
What is the point of this law?
I don't know.
Screw with people.
Yeah. I mean, it's this. I mean, I would never do that to begin with. And I don't know anyone that would. That is a responsible gun owner. Now, what it would do is all these thug ass gangbangers that just leave guns laying around and shit. You know, that's who it's going to affect. So, is this a good bill? In the face, no. But when you get down to it, it might be. I don't know. Oh, here's the one for HB 207, the suppressor tax. So imposes a firearm suppressor tax equal to $500 per retail sale of any firearm suppressor sold by a dealer. So basically, they got rid of the firearm tax federally, but now
I would think that there would be a lawsuit in response to that one because they got rid of the federal tax stamp.
I would think so, and I would hope there would be some kind of injunction put in place for it. I think it depends on what court they file these
Yard sales being funny. Don't some police store a long weapon vertically and in view?
Oh, how interesting.
What I've heard.
They do.
I'm sure they're exempt.
I'm sure there's going to be exemptions put in place.
Sure.
A waiting period, HB 700 waiting period, 5-day waiting period for buying firearms.
The police are the only ones qualified. You ever see that video? The DEA agent, Lee Page, I think was his name. He's in a classroom with a bunch of kids. He's like, I'm the only one qualified. Biggie Smalls and Tupac all wish they had this gun. And then he like blasts his little toe right off, just clean off his foot immediately after. I'm the only one qualified.
Negligent.
Then there's HB.
Bring some more guns over here as he's like bleeding all over the floor.
Prohibition on outdoor shooting of firearms on property without reasonable care. Permits locale. So this is a bill that would allow local governments to adopt ordinances for this. Permits locality.
Sorry. What is the focus of the bill again? It
prohibition
guns on your own property.
Outdoor shooting of firearms on property without reasonable care.
The hell does that mean?
That
sounds
so. Basically, vague. What they're saying is the ordinance prohibiting it allows the county or the local government to adopt an ordinance prohibiting outdoor shooting of a firearm unless the discharge of said of such firearm is conducted, one, on land of at least 5 acres, and with reasonable care described in the bill, to prevent a projectile from crossing the bounds of the land. The bill permits such an ordinance to create a rebuttal presumption to the discharge of the firearms across or over the bounds of a property without written permission of that property owner was without reasonable care. So if you don't, so like my place here, I have 3 acres. And
But you don't have 5.
I don't have 5. So I wouldn't be able to,
so it sounds like what they're trying to accomplish. So here in Nevada, you can't shoot in a congested area. So like if there's a dwelling within like a mile of where you're shooting, like you can't do it. Because they're talking, that's I think the language that you just read about a round crossing the boundary of
right.
Whatever they're saying is safe. But it sounds like they're trying to do something like that. Here I guess it makes sense. We have a ton of BLM land here, so you could have something like that and have it make sense. I don't know that that's the case in Virginia. You guys don't have a bunch of state or government land or anything. And
no,
but like if you go and shoot on your 3 acres, like, do you even really have anyone around you?
No, I don't. I mean, my berms on my range are right on the property lines.
Mm-hmm.
And those rounds don't cross the property line, but I don't have 5 acres. I only have 3.
Right.
But I have.
I'm sorry, 5 acres. What is the effing point? Like
that's something.
Every modern center fire rifle, a 22 rimfire will launch clean over 5 acres of land. What is the stupid arbitrary number?
A lot, because most tracts of housing developments and stuff in Virginia, I don't want to say most, a lot, are at least 3 acres. They have to be at least 3 acres. So like this little housing area that I'm in, everybody has a minimum of 3 acres. So
that doesn't make any sense.
They're trying to make it so you can't train or shoot or practice on your own land.
Property.
Okay, if you're out shooting in the courtyard of your apartment complex, I'm sure there's other laws already that can be used to stop somebody from doing this dangerous thing. But
right.
But 5 acres. What are these arbitrary, stupid numbers? A 22 can go like 7 miles if you launch it at a 45-degree angle. This is right. If you're doing something stupid with a gun, 5 acres means nothing.
Graphics and they looked at what the average probably land size of the homeowners in Virginia is, and they're like, hey, let's just make it 5 because most people have 3.
Right.
All right.
So they can
try to harass people.
Effect on you being able to go shoot somewhere. So, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to create their own state-owned land where you can pay to go shoot.
Oh no, there's
and then you store your firearms there like they do.
It's the next county down. They're trying to put a range in, and it's pretty secluded. And they're trying to put a stop on having this range put in because it's going to be, just because. There's literally nothing around.
Sure, they'll come up with some sort of environmental reason, right?
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
That is
did you know in Nevada that it's illegal to shoot within like an old strip mine or anything like that?
I did not know.
Yeah.
There's a ton of strip mines out here.
Yeah. Don't shoot in them because they make great backdrops.
I mean, I don't go looking for them.
Well, no.
Now, some people go exploring them, which is incredibly dangerous, but I don't,
right.
I don't really mess with those because, I mean, man, you could go into one of those and you could pass out because maybe the,
well, I'm talking like those big wide open areas that they've dug out that are.
You're talking about a gravel pit.
Yeah, like a big gravel pit that they've dug out.
Or tailings.
Yeah, we've got some stuff like that here. We have abandoned mines. There's like tons of them here. There's tons of places where I did know that you couldn't shoot in a strip mine though.
No.
Why? What's the reasoning behind that?
I don't know. It was from whenever I lived out there, and it was one of those things that I just knew. But I think it has to do with contaminating a potential future mining site with lead or something.
A lot of those are.
Well, then they mine lead.
Right.
A lot of those are abandoned. There's a lot of abandoned ones though that they're never going to use again.
No.
So, but I mean, I get it. I mean, that's really not a big deal here. There's so much land out here to go
Yeah,
explore and play on. Like, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. No.
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah,
is
just one of those
unfortunate that
random
that's going on
facts
in your state.
Of the NRS, Nevada Revised Code or statutes that I remembered from living out there.
But that's unfortunate that that's happening in Virginia, and it goes to show you that it can happen anywhere,
Yeah.
and it can happen even if you are active in local government.
So where are people from Virginia talking about moving to? Do they go to Tennessee? Do they go to Kentucky?
I mean,
Where they go?
everybody says
Florida?
they're going to move, but maybe 0.001% of the population will move because of it. Really? I mean, these are
And the rest will just keep doing what they're doing.
Their families are. People aren't going to move, and these lawmakers, they know that.
I would imagine that those folks out there would just continue to do what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Which is just living their lives like they always have. And, at some point, if, Richmond comes knocking, I guess they'll address it then.
Right.
Which is, I
don't
guess,
know if it'll happen that way. I hope not, because that will. You think the Minnesota riots are bad? You're going to see some really nasty stuff happen if Richmond comes knocking on doors.
I would imagine that I've been talking about this for a minute now, but we'll see what happens with the midterms. It's going to be it's an election year. It's going to be very interesting. You're going to see more stuff like you're seeing in Virginia and other places. We'll probably see it here. Who knows? But things that I think are going to really ramp up once we get close to November, because that's when everyone's going to be really in a frenzy. You're going to have nothing but political ads on TV every 2 minutes. People are going to be sending you mailers. Everyone's going to get all worked up. And I think depending on who gets into power, it's going to be a cluster. I really do think that. I hope I'm wrong, but I think if the pendulum does swing the other way, and you've got a bunch of states where the other side's in power, it's going to get interesting when it comes to gun rights, and they'll probably be going after everyone who's an enemy of their party, is my guess.
Right. So on the local level, I don't think we have local enforcement level, I should say. I don't think we have too much to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I think you start getting into the cities, Charlottesville, Richmond, of course, all the counties and stuff up north and out east.
Right.
Local level will probably play a bigger role there. But these rural counties like I'm in, I don't think we have too much to worry about here as far as them messing with us, unless they're really forced and having their feet held to the fire to do something.
They might, or they may, if the Republicans lose the midterms, I'm sure that the Democrats will be full-throated going after all the ICE agents and everybody else. So they'll be busy with that for a while, probably.
Right.
They'll probably go after those guys like they did the J6 people, is my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at this point they have a lot bigger fish to fry than worry about somebody with a.
But when they're done with those fish, they're going to fry the little ones too.
Oh yeah. But they can't put 5 million people in jail all at once either.
I don't know. The chances aren't zero.
They're not zero, no.
They could set up a nice little camp. I'm sure that's what the Japanese thought before they got interned.
Right.
Yeah, they can't jail all of us. And then FDR was like, "Here, hold my beer," and then they did. Yeah,
there was a big ICE. ICE was trying to buy a big warehouse over next county over in Hanover County here, and they were trying to buy it from a guy. He was a Canadian guy that owns it, and there was a big uproar over here about ICE coming into the area and having this detention center here and everything. And ultimately, the guy that owned it declined to sell it to the government for ICE operations. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Were they just offering fair market value, or were they going to make them
I think he offered him like $5 million or something for it.
I would have cashed out. Like, see ya.
Yeah.
I have it. I'm out.
You know, so maybe they're just going to lease it from him now on a yearly basis instead of just outright own it. I don't know.
What else you got?
That's it. I don't want to get too pissed off.
You did well. I thought you were gonna just lose your shit, but
I'm trying really hard.
You were very measured. I think that's good. Well, I guess that's probably about it. Yeah. I don't really have too much else to cover unless you guys do. So maybe this is a good spot to kind of wrap up. So I guess, Drew, do you have any closing thoughts? We'll go with you first, and then I guess we'll kick it over to Jared.
Well, if anybody out there wants to test their equipment out and hit me up with a message on JS8 call, I'll leave my station up on exactly this frequency, and you can send a message to @TCS and test out your equipment, practice before you actually need it. I look forward to hearing from you. If you want to check out my channel, it is YouTube @Terminal Element. Talk about a variety of communications related topics. And I'm looking for instances of people using HF in emergencies. I'd love to showcase that on my channel. So if you've got anything, head on over to my channel, Terminal Element, and submit a tip. I'd love to go into, oh my goodness, so sorry about that. I'd love to go into detail about that. And especially if you've got anything that Races or Aries has ever done ever for anyone, send that to me as well.
Videos you sent us, Drew?
Say again?
Are you talking about those racy videos you sent us of yourself?
Oh dear. Let's talk.
Those are different.
Oh, that's different.
Those are just for the private chat. Well, that's that would be very interesting to hear about. I would like to also hear about any HF stories or VHF, UHF, whatever that anyone had. So definitely a good topic. Mr. Jared.
The weather here has just been absolute shit all week long. Until today, it wasn't above 20 degrees, I don't think, but we literally have 6 to 8 inches of ice, literal ice on everything. I can't even walk.
Literal immigration and custom enforcement covering every inch of that land. I like it.
Rock, around every corner.
And it's just been, I haven't done shit all week. I haven't worked. I haven't done anything in the shop because it's just been so cold in the shop.
You know what? Enjoy it. Let Yoda run around in the snow, man.
It's not even that. He can't even walk out there because it's literally solid ice, the entire yard in the woods and everything.
That sucks.
I'll make a video of it and send it to you tomorrow how bad it is. But he literally slid on his side the entire way down through the yard this morning. The legs are kicking and flailing.
How old is Yoda?
He's 7 now.
Oh, all right. Still a young pup.
Yeah, I mean, he acts like he's 7 months old. So
yeah, they do. Like, it's weird. Like my 2 dogs, like they're about that age, and well, one's 6. But I'm like, how do you have so much energy? But I guess they're still kind of young at that age. But anything else?
I got this really cool camo the other day.
Oh, all right. See it. Is it for the wintertime?
Camo or camera?
I have to send it back because they don't have American sizing. But
that's
this is the Red Dawn.
That's some Red Dawn camo
Red
right
Dawn
there.
Camo. This fits okay.
That's Charlie Sheen's camo right there.
It's the bottoms that don't fit the best. And it's not because I'm fat.
Well, because they're not Americans.
It's this European where it's made at.
Yeah, they like tight pants over there. I'm not surprised.
I can't remember where it's made at. Oh, Uzbekistan. So they have some kind of weird
sizing system,
stuff over there.
It's cool camo though.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was hoping to make some videos this week with it, but it doesn't fit very well. So I got to send that back tomorrow and order the correct sizes.
Yeah, when I saw you grab it from the background, I'm like, oh, that looks like Red Dawn camo.
Yeah, I was excited to get it, and then I got it, tried it on. I'm like, shit, I can't even get my leg into the pant.
They lose him?
What's that?
Well, he looks really excited. That he's gone.
I missed it, Drew.
Oh, was that me?
Yeah.
I thought that was you guys. Jared had this big old shit-eating grin on his face, and I was like, "Wow, he does look excited about that camo."
Actually, probably got interrupted, but yeah, we're
my bad.
Yeah, no, that's cool camo. So you're gonna send it back and get some new one. All right.
Yeah, I'll get the proper sizes. I'll probably call them if I can, and get the proper sizes that way. Reorder it. So
and then you'll dress like Colonel Bella. Well
That's
done,
right.
sir. Well, with that, I guess let's see. Let me just check the comments really quick.
Plug your channel. You got the series called Secret Government Weapons and
all kinds of stuff. I'll get to that in a second.
Ground Fog thinks we're sweet.
He likes your camo. He said that's pretty awesome. And then milsurp sizing is country specific outside NATO. You need a freaking spreadsheet to follow it.
Yeah, spreadsheet and a PhD.
Right. Well, with that, I'll plug my channel. So my channel is Partisan Comms Group. So I post a hodgepodge of things. And if you're interested in a hodgepodge of things to mix it up and keep things interesting, then I guess my channel's for you. And if that's not your jam, then it's not. With that, Drew and Jared, as always, thank you for doing this live stream and keeping it going and being available to bounce topics and ideas off each other. And for everyone watching, thank you. We appreciate you. And I don't know when our next one will be, probably sometime in March, hopefully. It's already been a crazy busy start to the year, but hopefully we can find some time and get together again soon and throw some more topics everyone's way. But again, everyone watching, appreciate you, and hopefully we'll catch you soon. Thanks for watching.
I'd like to take us out with a really quick, simple, peaceful protest, which everyone knows does not disrupt police activities at all.
This is an unlawful assembly.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Well, thank you. Goodness gracious. You should do that while we're trying to do the next episode. Just blow a whistle and see if we all just lose our mind.
Totally not disruptive at all.
Right to jail, right away.
All right. Well, I guess.
Dagestan and forget. All right. See you.
Catch y'all later.
Night, guys.